The sound of sleigh bells cutting through the frozen air became the last thing Lily Winters heard before her stepbrother's hands shoved hard against her back, sending her tumbling from the moving sleigh into a snowbank so deep it swallowed her whole. The December wind of 1881 howled across the Texas plains as she lay stunned, watching the sleigh disappear into the white curtain of falling snow, her stepbrother's cruel laughter fading into nothing. She tried to scream, but the impact had knocked the wind from her lungs. Pain radiated through her left shoulder and hip, where she had struck the frozen ground beneath the deceptive softness of the snow. The cold bit through her traveling coat immediately, seeping into her bones with vicious intent. Lily struggled to sit up, her gloved hands clawing at the snow around her, but her body refused to cooperate. The shock of betrayal hurt worse than any physical wound. Marcus had promised to take her to their aunt's house in Fort Worth after their parents died of influenza 3 months ago. Instead, he had taken her miles from anywhere, stolen the inheritance their mother left her, and thrown her away like refuse. The snow fell harder now, thick flakes that obscured everything beyond a few feet. Lily managed to roll onto her side, gasping as fresh pain shot through her shoulder. She had to move, had to find shelter. The temperature was dropping fast, and the thin light of afternoon was already fading. Texas winters were unpredictable, but this blizzard had come from the north with unusual fury, and she knew people died in weather like this. She forced herself to her knees, then to her feet, swaying dangerously. The world spun, white and gray and merciless. Which direction had they come from? Which way led to civilization? The sleigh tracks were already filling with fresh snow. Lily picked a direction and started walking, each step in agony, her shoulder throbbing in time with her heartbeat. Time lost meaning. She might have walked for minutes or hours. Her feet went numb first, then her hands despite the gloves. She stumbled repeatedly, catching herself less effectively each time. The wind pushed at her like hostile hands, and she began to wonder if this was how her story ended, frozen and alone at 20 years old because her stepbrother wanted money more than family. The tears that slipped down her cheeks froze on her skin. She thought of her mother, who had married Marcus's father 5 years ago after Lily's own father died. They had seemed happy, the four of them. But after the influenza took both parents, Marcus had changed. Or perhaps he had always been cruel, and she had simply been too naive to see it. Lily fell again, and this time she could not get up. Her body had nothing left to give. She lay in the snow, watching the flakes fall onto her eyelashes, thinking how strange it was that something so beautiful could kill. Her eyes drifted closed. The sound of hoofbeats penetrated her fading consciousness. A horse, moving carefully through the snow. Lily tried to lift her head but managed only to turn it slightly. Through the curtain of white, she saw a dark shape approaching, a rider on a large horse, both moving like shadows through the storm. "Jesus Christ," a man's voice said, sharp with shock. The rider dismounted in one smooth motion, boots crunching in the snow. "Madam, madam, can you hear me?" Strong hands touched her face, turned her more fully onto her back. Lily forced her eyes open and found herself looking up into a face weathered by sun and wind, with gray eyes that held genuine concern. He was young, perhaps 25, with dark hair beneath a snow-covered hat and a thick coat that marked him as someone who knew this country. "I am cold," Lily managed to whisper, her voice barely audible. I know, I am going to get you warm. My name is Wyatt Jensen. I've got a ranch not far from here. Can you tell me your name?" "Lily Winters." "All right, Miss Winters, I need to get you on my horse." "This is going to hurt, but we have got no choice." He was right. When he lifted her, pain exploded through her shoulder and she cried out despite herself. Wyatt cursed softly, apologizing as he settled her in front of the saddle and then swung up behind her. His arms came around her to grip the reins, and his body blocked the worst of the wind. The horse started moving, and Lily let her head fall back against Wyatt's chest, too exhausted to maintain any pretense of propriety. "Stay awake," Wyatt said near her ear, his voice firm. "Talk to me." "How did you end up out here, Sleigh?" Lily murmured. The warmth from his body was already making her drowsy, a dangerous drowsiness she recognized even through her haze. "My stepbrother. He pushed me." She felt Wyatt stiffen behind her. "He did what?" "Threw me from the sleigh. Took my inheritance. Left me to die." The curses that followed were creative and heartfelt, delivered in a low rumble that vibrated through his chest. "You are not going to die. I promise you that. Stay with me now. Keep talking. Where were you headed?" "Fort Worth. To my aunt's house." "But I do not think Marcus ever meant to take me there. Fort Worth is 2 days' ride in good weather. Your stepbrother is a damned fool if he thought he could make it in this storm. More likely he has holed up somewhere, or he is as frozen as you nearly were." Lily wanted to say she hoped Marcus was frozen solid, but the thought took too much energy. The horse plodded steadily onward, and she focused on the rhythm of its gait, on the solid warmth of the man behind her, on staying conscious. "There," Wyatt said finally, and Lily opened eyes she had not realized she had closed. Through the snow she could make out the dark shapes of buildings. A house, a barn, corrals. Almost there. "My sister Ruth is going to help you. She is good with healing." They stopped beside the house and Wyatt dismounted, then carefully pulled Lily down into his arms. He carried her up the porch steps and kicked at the door. "Ruth, Ruth, I need you." The door flew open, revealing a woman several years younger than Wyatt, perhaps 22, with the same gray eyes and dark hair. Her gaze went immediately to Lily, and her face paled. "Good Lord, Wyatt, bring her in by the fire." "What happened?" "Found her half frozen about a mile out. Her stepbrother threw her from a sleigh." "He what?" Ruth's voice rose with indignation, but she was already moving, clearing cushions from the sofa near the fireplace, grabbing blankets. "Put her here. We need to warm her slowly. Wyatt, go take care of your horse and then put water on to boil. And bring my medicine kit from the kitchen." Wyatt laid Lily gently on the sofa, and Ruth immediately began removing her snow-covered coat and boots. Lily tried to help, but her fingers would not cooperate. Ruth worked quickly, efficiently, wrapping her in warm blankets, checking her extremities with careful touches. "Your shoulder is hurt," Ruth observed. "Can you move your arm?" Lily tried and gasped at the sharp pain. "Not much. Probably dislocated or badly bruised from the fall. We will know more once you are warmed up." Ruth tucked another blanket around her. "I am Ruth Jensen. You are safe now. That brother of yours is a monster." "Stepbrother," Lily corrected weakly. "And yes, he is." Wyatt returned with the medicine kit and began stoking the fire to a roaring blaze. Ruth made Lily drink warm broth in small sips, and slowly, painfully, feeling returned to her frozen limbs. With feeling came worse pain in her shoulder, and Ruth examined it carefully. "Definitely dislocated," she pronounced. "Wyatt, I need you to hold her steady." What followed was the worst pain Lily had experienced in her life. A sharp manipulation that made her scream before sudden relief flooded through her as the joint popped back into place. She lay gasping, tears streaming down her face, while Ruth wrapped her shoulder tightly. "The worst is over," Ruth promised. "Rest now. We will get some proper food in you when you are ready." Lily drifted in and out of awareness for the rest of that day and into the night. Sometimes she woke to find Ruth sitting nearby, sewing or reading. Once she woke to find Wyatt adding wood to the fire, moving quietly so as not to disturb her. When their eyes met, he gave her a small nod and a slight smile that somehow made her feel safer than she had in months. The storm raged for 2 more days. Lily grew stronger during that time, though her shoulder remained painful, and her body bore bruises in spectacular shades of purple and green. Ruth fussed over her like a mother hen, bringing her food and checking her bandages. Wyatt came in from the barn several times a day, always pausing to ask how she felt, his eyes reflecting genuine concern. On the 3rd day, the storm finally broke, leaving the world blanketed in white under a brilliant blue sky. Lily was sitting up on the sofa, feeling almost human again when Wyatt came in stamping snow from his boots. "The pass should be clear enough to ride by tomorrow," he said, addressing Ruth but glancing at Lily. "I will take Miss Winters to her aunt in Fort Worth if she is well enough to travel." "I am well enough," Lily said quickly. "And I have imposed on your hospitality long enough. I cannot thank you both enough for saving my life." "You have imposed nothing," Ruth said firmly. "And Wyatt found you, so it is his responsibility to see you safely delivered. Besides, I need him to bring back supplies. We are low on flour and sugar." "I will pay you back," Lily said, though she had no idea how. Marcus had taken everything. "Somehow I will repay you for your kindness." Wyatt shook his head. "There is nothing to repay. Any decent person would have done the same." But Lily knew that was not true. Plenty of people would have ridden past, not wanting the trouble. Wyatt Jensen had not only stopped but had taken her into his home, given her his bed while he slept in the barn loft, shared his food during a time when supplies were precious. He had saved her life in every way that mattered. That night, unable to sleep, Lily found herself standing at the window, looking out at the snow-covered landscape silvered by moonlight. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to find Wyatt coming from the kitchen with a glass of water. Could not sleep either. He asked quietly, not wanting to wake Ruth, who was asleep in her room. "Too much to think about," Lily admitted. "I keep wondering what I am going to do. My aunt is not expecting me. She is elderly and not wealthy. I have no money, no prospects. Marcus took everything my mother left me." Wyatt moved to stand beside her at the window. In the moonlight, his profile was strong and honest, the face of a man who knew hard work and kept his word. "Your stepbrother committed a crime. You could report him to the marshal." "With what proof?" "His word against mine, and he is a man with money and property now. I am just a woman with bruises that could have come from anywhere." Lily heard the bitterness in her own voice. "The law is rarely kind to women with stories like mine." "That is true," Wyatt acknowledged, and she appreciated that he did not offer empty reassurances. "But you are strong. You survived being thrown from a sleigh in a blizzard. You survived 2 days in the cold before help came. That takes strength most people do not have." "I was just too stubborn to die," Lily said, but she felt a small warmth at his words. "Stubbornness is underrated," Wyatt replied, and she heard the smile in his voice. "I have built this whole ranch on stubbornness and too much pride to quit." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Lily asked, "How did you come to have this ranch? You and Ruth seem young to be running a place like this alone." "Our parents died 4 years ago. Father from a riding accident, mother from grief 6 months later. We almost lost the ranch that first year, but Ruth and I worked ourselves half to death to keep it going." He paused. "I know what it is like to lose your parents, to have your whole world change in an instant." "I am sorry," Lily said softly, "but at least you had each other. And you have built something good here." "We have. And you will build something good too, Lily. I know you will." The way he said her name, gentle and certain, made something flutter in her chest. She looked up at him and found him already looking at her, his gray eyes dark in the moonlight. For a moment, the air between them felt charged with something unnamed, but then Wyatt cleared his throat and stepped back. "We should both try to get some sleep. Long ride tomorrow." Lily nodded, not trusting her voice, and watched him retreat to the barn. She touched her fingers to the window glass, still feeling the warmth of his presence beside her. The ride to Fort Worth took longer than expected. The snow had drifted deep in places, and they had to pick their way carefully. Wyatt had bundled Lily in a heavy coat that belonged to Ruth, and he kept his horse to a careful walk, mindful of her still healing shoulder. They stopped frequently to rest and warm themselves with coffee from a flask Wyatt carried. As they rode, they talked. Lily told him about her childhood, about her father who had been a schoolteacher, about how her mother had found happiness again with Marcus's father. Wyatt spoke of growing up on the ranch, of learning to ride before he could properly walk, of the hard years after his parents died when he and Ruth clung to each other and to the land. "I have never met anyone quite like you," Lily found herself saying as they paused to let the horse rest. "You are kind without being weak, strong without being cruel. That seems rare, especially in men." Wyatt looked uncomfortable with the praise. "I am just a rancher trying to make an honest living. Nothing special about that." "There is everything special about that. You saved my life, Wyatt. You could have left me to die, but you did not. You could have taken advantage of me when I was vulnerable, but you did not. You treated me with respect and kindness when I had every reason to believe the world held neither." Lily felt her throat tighten with emotion. "That is not nothing. That is everything." Wyatt was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working. Finally, he said, "My father always told me that how a man treats people when he has power over them shows his true character. You were helpless when I found you. What kind of man would I be if I had done anything but help?" "A man like my stepbrother," Lily said quietly. "I am nothing like your stepbrother." There was steel in Wyatt's voice now, "and if I ever cross paths with him, he is going to answer for what he did to you." The protective anger in his tone sent another flutter through Lily's chest. She had spent the last 3 months feeling powerless, at the mercy of Marcus's whims. Having someone willing to defend her, to be angry on her behalf, felt like cool water after a long drought. They reached Fort Worth as the sun was setting, painting the snow-covered streets in shades of orange and pink. The town was larger than Lily expected, with real streets and storefronts, a church with a white steeple, and houses clustered together like friends sharing warmth. Wyatt asked directions to her aunt's house from a man clearing snow from his walk, and they found it on the edge of town, a small but tidy home with smoke rising from the chimney. Lily felt her stomach knot with anxiety as they approached. What if her aunt turned her away? What if Marcus had already been here with lies about what happened? Wyatt must have sensed her fear because he reached over and squeezed her hand briefly. "Do you want me to come in with you? Would you?" Lily asked, grateful beyond words. "Of course." He helped her dismount and walked with her to the door. Lily knocked, and after a moment, it opened to reveal a small, elderly woman with white hair and sharp blue eyes that reminded Lily powerfully of her mother. "Yes," the woman said, looking between them with curiosity. "Aunt Margaret." Lily said, her voice shaking. "I am Lily. Lily Winters, your niece. My mother was Catherine." The old woman's eyes widened and her hand flew to her mouth. "Catherine's daughter, but Catherine never answered my letters after she remarried. I thought perhaps she wanted nothing to do with me." "Mother died 3 months ago," Lily said gently. "She and her husband both from influenza. I am sorry to come to you like this, but I had nowhere else to go." Margaret's face crumpled with grief. "My Catherine. Oh, my dear girl, come in out of the cold, and your husband too." "He is not my husband," Lily said quickly, feeling her cheeks heat. "This is Wyatt Jensen. He saved my life. My stepbrother tried to kill me and Wyatt found me in the snow." The story spilled out then in Margaret's warm kitchen over hot tea and fresh bread. The old woman listened with growing horror and fury, and when Lily finished, Margaret reached across the table and gripped her hand fiercely. "You will stay with me for as long as you need," she said firmly. "This is your home now. And as for that stepbrother of yours, I may be old, but I still know people. The marshal here is a good man. We will file a report, even if nothing comes of it. At least there will be a record of what Marcus did." Wyatt had been quiet during the telling, but now he spoke. "Madam, I would be happy to provide a statement about Lily's condition when I found her. The injuries she sustained were consistent with her story." "Thank you, young man," Margaret said, her eyes shrewd as she looked between Wyatt and Lily. "It seems my niece is fortunate to have found a friend like you." "I am the fortunate one," Wyatt said, and the warmth in his voice made Lily's breath catch. It was full dark now, and Margaret insisted Wyatt stay for supper before riding home. Over a meal of stew and fresh bread, Lily watched Wyatt charm her aunt with stories of the ranch and respectful attention to her questions. She felt a pang of sadness knowing he would ride away soon, back to his life, while she began to build a new one here. After supper, Lily walked Wyatt out to where his horse was tied. The night was cold but clear, stars scattered across the sky like diamonds on black velvet. "Thank you," Lily said, and was mortified to feel tears pricking her eyes. "For everything. I do not know how to properly express what you have done for me." "You do not need to express anything," Wyatt said. He stood close enough that she could see his breath misting in the cold air. "I am just glad I found you when I did. Your aunt seems like a good woman. You will be safe here." "I know, but I will miss you." The words slipped out before Lily could stop them, and she felt her face flame even in the darkness. "And Ruth, you have both been so kind." Wyatt was quiet for a moment, and then he reached up and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was so tender it made Lily's heart ache. "I will miss you too, Lily Winters, more than I probably should after knowing you such a short time." "Then visit," Lily said, emboldened by his admission. "Fort Worth is not so far. You said Ruth needed supplies. Come back for them, please." "I will," Wyatt promised. "I will come back in 2 weeks, if you would like me to, that is." "I would like that very much." They stood there in the cold, looking at each other, and Lily felt the moment stretch and expand, filled with possibility. Then Wyatt stepped back, touched the brim of his hat, and swung into the saddle. "Take care of yourself, Lily, and if you need anything, send word. I will come." "I know you will," Lily said, and meant it. She watched him ride away into the darkness, one hand pressed to her chest where her heart beat hard and fast. Behind her, the door opened and Margaret's voice called gently, "Come inside, child. It is too cold to be standing out here." But Lily felt warm all the way through. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange mixture of healing and anticipation. Margaret proved to be everything Lily could have hoped for in a guardian. She was kind but not smothering, practical without being cold. She helped Lily file a report with the marshal, though as Lily had predicted, there was little the law could do without proof or witnesses. Still, it felt good to have her story on record, to have someone in authority acknowledge that what Marcus did was wrong. Margaret also helped Lily find work. The local school teacher needed an assistant, someone to help with the younger children and with preparing lessons. The pay was modest, but it came with dignity and purpose. Lily threw herself into the work, grateful for something to occupy her mind besides counting the days until Wyatt returned. Because she was counting them. She tried not to, told herself she was being foolish, that Wyatt was simply a kind man who had helped someone in need, but she could not stop thinking about him. The steadiness of his presence, the warmth in his gray eyes. The way his voice had sounded when he said her name, Margaret noticed, of course. She was old but far from blind. "This rancher who saved you," she said one evening as they sat by the fire, Lily mending and Margaret knitting. "He seemed quite taken with you." "Aunt Margaret," Lily protested weakly. "Do not Aunt Margaret me. I saw the way he looked at you and the way you looked at him. There is nothing wrong with that child. You are young and unattached, and he seems a good man." "He is a very good man," Lily said softly. "But I have only known him a short time, and I have nothing to offer him. No money, no family to speak of besides you. I am damaged goods, Aunt Margaret. What man would want that?" Margaret set down her knitting with a sharp click of needles. "Lily Winters, I will not have you speaking about yourself that way. You are a survivor. You are strong and kind and intelligent. Any man would be lucky to have you. And if this Wyatt is half as smart as he seemed, he already knows it." Lily wanted to believe her. Late at night, lying in the small bedroom Margaret had prepared for her, she let herself imagine a future with Wyatt, coming home to him after a day of teaching, sitting beside him in the evening, building a life together on his ranch. But imagination was dangerous. It led to hope, and hope led to heartbreak when reality failed to measure up. The 14th day arrived cold and bright. Lily tried not to watch out the window, tried to focus on the lessons she was preparing for the next week. But her gaze kept drifting to the street outside, searching for a familiar figure on horseback. By evening, she had convinced herself he was not coming. Something must have happened, or perhaps he had simply changed his mind. She was helping Margaret prepare supper, moving mechanically through the motions when a knock sounded at the door. Lily froze, knife in hand, afraid to hope. Margaret smiled knowingly and said, "Well, are you going to answer that or shall I?" Lily set down the knife and wiped her hands on her apron, her heart hammering. She opened the door and there he was. Wyatt Jensen, snow dusting his hat and coat, a smile spreading across his face when he saw her. "Hello, Lily," he said, and the warmth in his voice wrapped around her like a blanket. "You came," she breathed. "I said I would." Margaret appeared behind Lily, all bustling hospitality. "Mr. Jensen, how lovely to see you again. You must stay for supper, I insist. And you cannot possibly ride back tonight. The spare room is yours." Wyatt protested, but Margaret was implacable, and soon he was settled at the table, regaling them with stories of the ranch. Ruth had sent greetings and a jar of her famous preserves. The cattle were doing well despite the snow. The barn cat had surprised everyone with a litter of kittens. Lily drank in every detail, hungry for news of the place that had sheltered her. But more than that, she was simply happy to be near Wyatt again. To hear his voice, to see the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, to feel the solid presence of him across the table. After supper, Margaret conveniently remembered urgent mending that required her immediate attention in her room, leaving Lily and Wyatt alone by the fire. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and then Wyatt said, "I have been thinking about you, wondering how you were settling in." "It has been good," Lily said. "Aunt Margaret is wonderful and I am teaching at the school. I feel useful again, like I have a purpose." "I am glad." Wyatt hesitated, then reached into his coat pocket. "I brought you something. It is not much, but Ruth thought you might like it." He handed her a small package wrapped in brown paper. Lily unwrapped it carefully and found a book, its leather cover worn soft with age. She opened it and saw it was a journal, with blank pages waiting to be filled. "Ruth said that after everything you have been through, you might want a place to write your thoughts," Wyatt explained, looking almost shy. "And I thought maybe you could write to me. Letters, I mean, if you wanted to. I am not much for writing myself, but I would try if you wanted me to." Lily looked up at him, This good man who had saved her life and now wanted to stay in it, and felt her eyes fill with tears. "I would like that very much. But Wyatt, you do not have to do this out of obligation. You have already done so much for me." Obligation. Wyatt moved from his chair to kneel beside hers, taking her hands in his larger, calloused ones. "Lily, I am not here out of obligation. I am here because I have not been able to stop thinking about you since the day I found you in the snow. I know it is fast. I know we barely know each other. But I would like to know you better, if you will let me." Lily's breath caught. "I thought I was imagining it, the connection between us. I thought it was just gratitude on my part, that I was confusing being rescued with something deeper. And now I think maybe it is something deeper. For both of us." Wyatt smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Then may I court you properly, Miss Winters? May I visit you, write to you, and see where this feeling between us leads?" "Yes," Lily said, smiling through her tears. "Yes, you may." He raised her hands to his lips and kissed them gently, and Lily felt warmth spread through her entire body. This was real. This was happening. After all the loss and betrayal, something beautiful was beginning. Over the next months, Wyatt made the journey to Fort Worth every 2 weeks without fail. Rain or shine, through late winter snows and early spring mud, he came. They walked through town together, Lily showing him the school where she taught and introducing him to her small circle of new friends. They had dinner with Margaret, who clearly approved of the courtship and was not shy about saying so. They talked for hours, sharing dreams and fears, learning the landscape of each other's hearts. Wyatt was unlike any man Lily had known. He listened when she spoke, truly listened, and remembered details she mentioned in passing. He was thoughtful without being overbearing, bringing her small gifts that showed he paid attention. A book by an author she had mentioned liking. A scarf in the exact shade of blue she had admired in a shop window. Wildflowers picked from the meadows around his ranch. In turn, Lily learned about him. About the loneliness of running a ranch with only his sister for company. About his dreams of expanding his herd, of building something lasting that he could pass down to his children someday. About how the responsibility of keeping Ruth safe and the ranch running had fallen on him so young, and how he had risen to meet it even when he was terrified he would fail. "You did not fail," Lily told him one April evening as they walked along the creek that ran through town, watching the water run high with snowmelt. "You succeeded. You built something good and lasting. You should be proud." "I am proud of the ranch," Wyatt admitted, "but it has been lonely, Lily." "I did not realize how lonely until I met you." They had stopped walking, and he turned to face her fully. The setting sun painted everything gold, and Lily thought she had never seen anything as beautiful as Wyatt Jensen looking at her with his heart in his eyes. "I am not lonely anymore either," she said softly. "Lily, I know we have not been courting long by most standards, but I am not getting any younger, and I know my own heart. I love you. I think I started loving you that first night when you were so determined to survive. I love your strength, your kindness, your sharp mind, and your generous heart. I want to marry you, build a life with you, have children with you if we are blessed that way. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep beside you every night." He dropped to one knee there beside the creek and pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple gold band with a small diamond that caught the light. "Will you marry me, Lily Winters? Will you come home with me and be my wife?" Lily felt joy burst through her chest like sunrise. "Yes. Yes. 1,000 times yes." Wyatt stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her with a passion that made her knees weak. Lily kissed him back, pouring all her love and hope into it, feeling his heart beat against hers. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Wyatt rested his forehead against hers and laughed quietly. "I was terrified you would say no." How could I possibly say no? I love you, Wyatt. I think I have loved you since you put me on your horse and promised I would not die. You kept that promise. You have kept every promise. I trust you with my life, with my heart, with my future. They walked back to Margaret's house hand in hand, and the old woman took one look at their faces and clapped her hands in delight. Finally. I was beginning to think you would never ask her, young man. I could not wait any longer, Wyatt admitted. They were married 6 weeks later in the small church in Fort Worth, with Margaret standing as witness on Lily's side and Ruth on Wyatt's. It was a simple ceremony but filled with love. Ruth hugged Lily afterward and whispered, "I am so glad to have you as a sister. Wyatt has been happier these last months than I have ever seen him." "I will do my best to keep him that way," Lily promised. The ride back to the ranch as Wyatt's wife felt completely different from that first journey. Then, Lily had been battered and afraid, uncertain of her future. Now she rode beside her husband, whole and healed and brimming with hope. When the ranch buildings came into view, Wyatt reined in his horse and looked at her. "Welcome home, Mrs. Jensen, Mrs. Jensen, Lily Winters Jensen." She tried the name in her mind and loved how it felt. "It is a beautiful home," she said, and meant it. The ranch might be isolated, but it was theirs. A place they would build their life together. Ruth had prepared a special dinner to welcome them, and that first night in their own home, Lily felt a contentment she had never known. After Ruth retired to her own cabin nearby, Wyatt took Lily's hand and led her to the bedroom they would share. "I have dreamed of this," he admitted, his voice husky. "Having you here with me, being able to hold you all night." "I have dreamed of it too," Lily whispered. What followed was tender and passionate, awkward in the way of first times but filled with love. Wyatt was gentle with her healing shoulder, careful and considerate, making sure she felt safe and cherished. When it was over, they lay tangled together, Lily's head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what? For saving me, for loving me, for giving me a home and a future." Wyatt's arms tightened around her. "You saved me too, Lily. I did not know how much I needed you until I found you in that snow. It is like fate put you in my path. If it was fate, I am grateful for it, even for the hard parts, because they led me to you." Life on the ranch was different from anything Lily had known, but she adapted quickly. She learned to help Ruth with the kitchen garden, to preserve food for winter, to care for the chickens and milk the cows. She continued teaching, riding into Fort Worth 3 days a week to work at the school. The students loved her, and she loved them back, finding joy in shaping young minds. But her favorite times were the evenings with Wyatt. After the work was done, they would sit together on the porch in warm weather, watching the sunset paint the sky. In winter, they huddled by the fire, reading or talking or simply being together. They made love often, learning each other's bodies with growing confidence and deepening pleasure. 6 months into their marriage, Lily realized she had missed her monthly courses. She said nothing at first, afraid to hope, but when another month passed with no sign, she told Wyatt one evening as they prepared for bed. "I think I might be with child," she said, watching his face carefully. Wyatt went very still, and then a smile spread across his face so wide and joyful that Lily started laughing. He picked her up and spun her around, mindful of her precious cargo, and then set her down gently and kissed her. "A baby," he breathed. "We are going to have a baby." "We are," Lily confirmed, joy bubbling up inside her. "Are you happy?" "Happy. Lily, I am beyond happy. I am blessed. You have given me everything I ever wanted and things I did not even know to dream of." Ruth was equally thrilled, immediately taking on the role of protective aunt-to-be. She fussed over Lily constantly, making sure she did not lift anything heavy or overdo it. Margaret made the journey from Fort Worth for an extended visit, bringing her knowledge of childbirth and her calming presence. Lily's pregnancy progressed smoothly. Her body changed, swelling with new life, and Wyatt treated her like she was made of glass and miracles. He talked to her belly at night, telling their child about the ranch and the horses and all the things they would do together. Lily would run her fingers through his hair and feel so full of love she thought she might burst with it. Their son was born on a cold January morning in 1883, 2 years almost to the day after Wyatt found Lily in the snow. The labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when Lily was terrified, but Wyatt held her hand through all of it, and Margaret and Ruth worked together to bring the baby safely into the world. When the midwife finally placed the squalling infant in Lily's arms, she looked down at his red, wrinkled face and felt her heart expand impossibly further. Wyatt sat beside her on the bed, one arm around her shoulders, staring at their son with wonder. "He is perfect," Wyatt whispered, touching one tiny fist with a finger that looked enormous by comparison. "Lily, he is perfect." "What should we name him?" Lily asked. They had discussed names but never settled on one. Now, looking at their son, Wyatt said, "Thomas, after my father." "Thomas James Jensen." "Thomas," Lily repeated, testing it. "Yes, it suits him." Thomas was a good baby, healthy and strong. He had Wyatt's gray eyes and Lily's dark hair, and watching Wyatt with their son melted Lily's heart over and over. He was a devoted father, gentle and patient, singing to Thomas when he fussed and walking him around the ranch to show him the animals even though he was far too young to understand. The seasons turned. Thomas grew into a curious toddler, then a rambunctious little boy. When he was 3, Lily discovered she was pregnant again, and 9 months later, their daughter was born. They named her Catherine Margaret after both their mothers, though everyone called her Kathy. She had Lily's blue eyes and Wyatt's determination, and she ruled the household from the moment she arrived. Life was not always easy. There were hard winters and dry summers, times when money was tight and the future uncertain. But Lily and Wyatt faced everything together, their love growing deeper and stronger with each challenge overcome. Thomas grew into a fine young man who loved the ranch as much as his father did. Kathy became a teacher like her mother, fierce and independent. They had 2 more children, another boy and another girl, and the ranch rang with laughter and life. On winter evenings, when the children were asleep and they had time alone, Wyatt would still pull Lily close and marvel at their good fortune. "Do you remember the day I found you?" he would ask. "Every detail," Lily would reply. "It was the worst day of my life and the beginning of the best. I think about what might have happened if I had taken a different path that day. If I had been 5 minutes later, we would never have found each other. But you did take that path and you were exactly on time. Maybe it really was fate." "Maybe," Wyatt would agree, kissing her temple. "Whatever it was, I am grateful for it every single day." 20 years after that terrible day in the snow, Lily stood on the porch of the ranch house watching the sunset. Her hair had threads of silver now, and there were lines around her eyes from years of smiling. Wyatt came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "Everything," Lily said. "How much life has changed, how much we have built together. Do you ever regret it?" "Leaving Fort Worth, living out here so far from town?" "Never," Lily said firmly, turning in his arms to face him. "This is where I belong, with you, with our family on this ranch. This is home." "You are my home," Wyatt said softly. "You have been since the moment I saw you lying in that snow." "I did not know it then, but I think my heart did." "And you are mine," Lily replied, reaching up to touch his face, still handsome despite the years and the weather. "My rescuer, my husband, my love." They stood together as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and pink. Inside the house, they could hear their children laughing, Ruth calling everyone to dinner, the sounds of home and family and life. Marcus had tried to destroy Lily that day he threw her from the sleigh. He had wanted to leave her frozen and forgotten in the snow, another nameless casualty of greed and cruelty. But she had survived. She had been found by a good man with a kind heart, and together they had built something beautiful out of tragedy. Sometimes, late at night, Lily wondered what had become of Marcus. She had heard rumors over the years that he had lost the inheritance gambling, that he had died in a bar fight, that he had fled west to escape his debts. She did not know which story was true, and she found she did not particularly care. He had no power over her anymore. He was just a ghost from a past life, while she lived fully in the present. "Come inside," Wyatt said, taking her hand. "Dinner is ready, and I think Ruth made your favorite pie." Lily let him lead her into the warm, bright kitchen where their family waited. This was everything she had never dared dream of during those dark months after her parents died. Love, safety, belonging, purpose. A husband who cherished her. Children who brought her joy. A home that was truly hers. She had been thrown into the snow to die, but instead she had found life. Real life. Messy and beautiful and absolutely worth living. As they sat down to dinner, surrounded by noise and laughter and love, Lily caught Wyatt's eye across the table. He smiled at her, that warm smile that still made her heart flutter after all these years, and she smiled back. Yes, she had been fortunate. Not because she had been rescued, but because she had been found by the right person. Someone who saw her not as a burden or a victim, but as a partner. Someone who loved her not in spite of her scars, but with full knowledge of them. The snow had tried to bury her that winter day so long ago. Instead, it had delivered her to exactly where she was meant to be. Home in every sense of the word, with the man she loved and the family they had created together. After dinner, when the children had scattered to their evening activities and Ruth had retired to her cabin, Lily and Wyatt walked out to the barn to check on the horses one last time before bed. The night was clear and cold, stars brilliant overhead, and their breath misted in the air. "I received a letter from Margaret today," Lily said as Wyatt secured the barn door. "She wants us to visit this spring. She says she is getting old and wants to see the children again." "Then we will go," Wyatt said immediately. "We can make a trip of it. The ranch can spare us for a week or two." "You are a good man, Wyatt Jensen," Lily said, linking her arm through his as they walked back toward the house. "I am a man who loves his wife and wants to make her happy," Wyatt corrected. "That is different." "It is the same thing," Lily insisted. They paused at the porch steps and Wyatt pulled her close, kissing her in the starlight. After 20 years, his kisses still made her feel like a newlywed bride. After 20 years, his touch still sparked warmth through her entire body. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "I love you," he replied. "Today, tomorrow, and every day after that for the rest of my life." They went inside together into the home they had built, into the life they had created. The past was behind them, full of both pain and triumph. The future stretched ahead, unknown but not frightening, because they would face it together. Lily had been thrown from a moving sleigh into the snow by someone who should have protected her. But she had survived, and in surviving, she had found something infinitely more precious than the inheritance Marcus stole. She had found love, real and lasting and true. She had found home. She had found herself. And that, she thought as Wyatt led her to their bedroom and closed the door behind them, was the greatest fortune anyone could ask for. Not wealth or status or power, but love freely given and joyfully received. A partner to walk beside through all of life's seasons. a family built on trust and tenderness. The snow had buried her once, but it had also preserved her until the right person came along to dig her out and bring her back to life. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best outcomes. Sometimes being lost was the only way to be found. Lily fell asleep that night in Wyatt's arms as she had every night for 20 years, as she would every night for the rest of her life. Safe, loved, home. The past could not hurt her anymore, and the future held only promise. She had survived, and in surviving, she had learned to thrive. And that was how a woman thrown from a sleigh to die in the snow instead found the love of her life and lived happily ever after.